And if you don't mind, I'll demonstrate. First off, you start your knees and your hips at the top of the swing, lower part of your body. Arms and hands follow, bringing you into position to hit.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back or to the Course Language Podcast. If it's your first time finding us or an existing member, we're wrapped that you're playing around with us as we talk about all things happening in the wonderful world of golf. Sam Hargraves, golf commentator, golf tragic, joined as always by the man who played on tour, won on tour, teaches others to do the same, commentates on tour, our resident pro and expert Ryan Lynch. Hello, mate.
Hello, Sammy. Very enjoyable week of golf on TV and very enjoyable week of golf for you, particularly on the golf course, mate. Let's get straight into that because you were ecstatic the other day. You gave me a phone call and you were just beaming. Utterly beaming. So talk us through it, please.
Well, the great part about it was the timing of it because we had a bit of a team building, podcast planning dinner that we planned in the city. And I was that excited about the round I just played. I couldn't even wait a couple of hours to see you and Nico for our dinner that we treated ourselves to. I just had to tell someone about the best round of golf that I've ever played. I got to... And for you who are having done this as a pro, I'm sure, I don't know if you know what the best round of golf you've ever played is, but if you're at my level and you get to experience that, months and months of poor rounds and poor performances and missed putts and all that kind of stuff is just a distant memory now because for this week, I am the reigning Thursday Stableford competition champion at the Cheltenham Golf Club. I've had my best ever score from a points point of view and off the stick point of view. I had 77 and a 42-pointer at Cheltenham in just the greatest round of golf I've ever played. And it is exactly why we love the game so much, for this very feeling that I got to feel. And I just couldn't wait to share it with somebody.
No, I was ecstatic to get the phone call. And look, it doesn't matter what level you are. These days come along every now and then, often, funnily enough, when you're least expecting them, as I think it's pretty clear to all the listeners and anyone who's following the podcast that you've been going through some dark days a little bit, mate. It's been a rough run for you. We played the previous week, actually. So, as I said, the game hasn't looked too bad. We've played a couple of times over the last month or so, and the game hasn't looked too bad at all. But it's just one of those, because golf is so between the ears and it really matters. I mean, you're playing against the golf course yourself, and it matters how you're thinking, how you're approaching things, what your expectations are. Not necessarily about the physical all the time. Now, the physical can help the mental can help the physical, all that sort of stuff. But something must have changed a little bit for you. Tell us what maybe that was or where that came from.
I'm glad you asked because your point is a very good one. I feel like I'm better at golf than I've ever been. I understand it better than I ever have, but I was not having the scores that would match that. And I was playing some pretty bad golf and just a very inconsistent golf. And I stumbled across a couple of things during the week, and I just want to share them with you because I think we've spoken about this a couple of times before about the expectations, which is a dirty word. If you listen to Ben Crowe, who's one of the great sporting mindset gurus in the world, worked with some of the biggest organisations in the world. His book is out now, Where the Light Shines In. Worth a read. Got to read it. Got to listen to it. Expectations is a dirty word. He eradicates it from all professional sporting vernacular. In his mind, it would never exist. And so I read his book and I immediately took that advice and then just happened to stumble across a couple of things. And one of them I found, so this is Dennis Sales Golf, who's based in Argyle, Texas. I just happened to stumble across this on Instagram. He's golfing 10 commandments. I'm just going to rattle through them. Play to play great, don't play not to play poorly. That was what Paul Skinner at Cheltenham told me was the difference between him and Jeff Ogilvy. Jeff played to play great. You would know this firsthand. He went out there, every time he sat over the ball, I'm going to play a great shot, as opposed to what Paul used to say he did was, I just don't want to play a bad shot. Love the challenge of the day, whatever it may be. Get out of the results and get into process. Know that nothing will bother or upset you on the golf course and you will be in a great state of mind for every shot. That was one thing I really took into the round. Yeah. Playing with a feeling that the outcome doesn't matter is almost always preferable to caring too much. Believe fully in yourself so that you can play freely. See where you want the ball to go before every shot. That's one thing you've been working on me with. be decisive, committed, and clear. Again, things that you worked with me, Mick Moore worked on with me on. Be your own best friend. That was the key to that. Love your wedge and your putter. So there's his 10 commandments. Now, take or leave any of that. I just happened to see that as I saw another thing on Instagram from beautiful golf courses on their page, the average golfer facts. And this is well worth it. We might even reshare this because the average handicap of a golfer is 14 to 18. I'm currently just above 14. The average score for the average golfer is 90 to 100 over 18 holes. Driving distances, fairways hit 45 to 55%. Up and down success, 10 to 20. Birdies per round, 0 to 2. I'm not playing for birdies anymore. We spoke about that. Average pars per round, 4 to 7. Greens in reg, 4 to 6. 4 to 6. Just imagine how many times people are cracking it when they miss fairways and greens as 15 handicappers not realising that you're not even going to get half of your fairways or you're only going to get a third at best of your greens.
Well, the best players in the world only average 70. I mean, the straightest ball hitters in the world only average 70% of fairways. Most pros are down under that sort of 60% or low 60s, high 50s% of fairways. So if the best in the world aren't hitting more fairways than you think, that's very important. I think you hit on something really important there and something that when you're struggling, the self-talk becomes really, really poor. And being your own best friend is a great way to frame it. For anyone who's got kids, the other way that you would frame it, or even like a nephew or a niece or someone that would look up to you as like a figure who they want to become or someone that might look up to you. I always think to myself, if I was caddying for my daughter or I was caddying for my nephew, how would I react to each shot or how would I speak to them after a poor shot? And if you relay that to yourself and you think of yourself as your son or your daughter or your niece or your nephew or even just one of your mates who's just starting the game, you would speak to yourself very, very differently throughout your round, and it can be so powerful.
Oh, 100%. And you've heard me. I mean, I'll also hit a bad shot and I go, you're a disgrace to your family. Your children are ashamed of you. And half of it's in jest, and it's a way to me to make light of it. But it's still not that productive. Those average golfer facts, I had 32 putts, so I was better than the average of 34 to 36. I was hitting. At one point, I had 5 out of 9 greens on the front 9, but I'd rolled off 3 others. So I'd hit them but rolled off them. So I was playing better than obviously my handicap would suggest and better than those averages would suggest. And it all came down to that mental approach to it because I actually didn't start off that great. I had a double bogey start to that round. I had another double bogey on 7. I sliced over 2 fairways and next to a tee box on 5, and then played one of the best shots probably the best shot I'll ever hit in my life on 7 next to the tee box to get back onto the green on 5 over the big peppercorn tree. Unfortunately, 3 putt. I had 3 putts. You can average 3 to 4 3 putts per round according to this. But it was what I did after stuffing up that we've talked about a few times and that I was most proud of. And this was the thing I was most proud of, more so than the score, was that when I played a bad shot, I just let it go. I just went, okay, well, what can I do here? And the decisions I made after topping a ball on 7 under a tree to the left that went 20 metres just past the ladies' tee. Now, I still made double, but the way I played the hole from there and was able to get a chance to get up and down, unfortunately didn't putt well to finish out the hole. But what I did after that, I was so proud of because I just didn't panic. I didn't throw the toys out of the cot. I didn't drop my bundle. I just went, okay, well, what are my options here? Thought my way through it, got myself back in play, used the rules to my advantage, and I'll talk about it later in the confessionals. But I think this particular conversation is not so much, hey, well done me for having a win and having my best ever score. The thing I was most proud of was the way that I approached the day and managed myself mentally through the day to just enjoy the very fact that I got to go out there and play this great game on a Thursday. And it was incredibly freeing. And it might not work next week, and that's the challenge. And I was going to ask you about that, is when you have these epiphany moments, and it's all well and good when it works. But we know that golf is the greatest leveler of all time because it's going to say to me, rate it in, mate. Well, pull up. We're going to throw a challenge at you next week. Talk about the challenge of keeping with what you've set out to do when it's not going well.
Yeah, I think that you've hit in, I can't remember whether it was the commandments or what you're reading off there, is the process is more important than the outcome, as we're talking about. So the outcome was, okay, you had your best round, brilliant. But what were the processes that you went through? How did you go about speaking to yourself for the day? What were your expectations for the round, or yada, yada, yada? That is what becomes your ethos. So that becomes your non-negotiable. And how do I get into that process every single time? How do I find and recapture that process that keeps me in the present, that stops me from worrying about result at any period? And that's why golf pros and any good player or any reasonable player relies so heavily on a pre-shot routine and a routine or process that they go through every single time. Now, that pre-shot routine is not just how many looks do I have before pulling the trigger. It's everything that encompasses what's the yardage, what's the wind doing, where do I want the ball to land, therefore what club am I going to take, what shot am I going to play? Okay, now that I've thought about all of those things, that's part of the process. And now I can get into my routine, which is how many looks am I taking at the hole and how do I feel that shot? The things like, can I hit that shot today, or have I been able to play that shot today, become important in that space as well. But when you're off 14, and you were talking about this the other day, that when we last played, was that you're not looking for birdies anymore, you're just playing for par. I said, mate, you should be playing for bogey. Just play for bogey and you're going to accidentally make a few pars. And if everyone set out, depending on your handicap, obviously, but if you set out to just play for bogeys, think about the decisions that you would make when you did hit a poor tee shot, or think about the decisions that you would make about, okay, I'm in the bunker for 2. Do I really need to get cute with this one, or can I just pop one out and try and make my 2-putt from there? And if I make a bogey, I move on. And even professionals, when they start to struggle, I've spoken to countless, and I used to do this myself, is that just start playing for par. Just try to make your 4 or your 3, and consider the easiest, most simple way to get the ball in the hole for your par, and the birdies will end up popping up if they do. If they don't, you're minimizing the risk.
So on these golf facts, and it's great advice, the reality check is the last line of this tile. And the 3 reality checks are: you are more likely to make a double than a birdie at my handicap. That goes to your point. Why am I playing? Even as I had given up on playing for birdies. You said, mate, you could even give up on playing for pars. Just get your bogey, because there's your 2 points on most holes. There's going to be others where you're not going to get a shot. If you're 14, 15, as we know how Stableford works, but you're going to get your 2 points. And then that you sort of are playing to your handicap. So most golfers miss 70% of greens, was the next reality check. And nearly every round includes at least one blow up hole. So these are the reality checks. So having all that in my mind and accepting it and then leaving it, as the round went on, so the last 11 holes I actually played in 3 over. I played the back 9, 2 over. And it's the best golf I've ever played, doing all the things that you had said. Started to become aware of score, but every time I started to think about score, I just went, well, that's not now. That's what's happening right now is, what's my next shot? And the way that I was able to manage the growing excitement and all that stuff that was coming with geez, hang on, I'm already at 30 points. Oh, hang on, I've just knocked off. I'm about 4.
Stop doing that, whatever you do. Stop looking at the amount of points that you've got. Stop
100%,
looking at all that sort of stuff for anyone who's doing that at home.
Old habits die hard, Lynchy. So when I found myself getting drawn towards that, I was able to pull myself back into just the right here, right now. What a beautiful day it is, enjoying this. How am I going to do this next shot? And it was all able to work. The challenge will be getting it to work consistently. But all the things you said about pre-shot routine, what was my routine after something went wrong? What was I doing with everything I was doing was all about enjoying it, slowing it down, not in terms of pace of play, but slowing backswing down, slowing backstroke of the putt down, and all that kind of stuff. So I just really wanted to share that part of it, because that
be careful,
was a thing.
That's the physical, not the mental.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But
the mental side of it was what I was most proud of throughout the course of the day, and hopefully that can continue. But I just wanted to share that for everybody who's just struggling with this idea of, am I getting better or not, and how am I going to get myself to a better place. I think it starts with the approach rather than the play.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And don't worry, they go hand in hand. It's very easy to have a good attitude when you're playing well. It's less easy to have a good attitude when you're playing poorly. Another good one that I used to use very regularly was make sure that if anyone's watching you, they have no idea about what your score is. And more to the point, like the better I was playing, the less I knew what my score was. So those sorts of outward facing things that that you can almost portray a sense of confidence or make yourself at least look like you're having a great time and that nothing bothers you, then those things flow on. But as we said, it is easier to have a good attitude when you're playing well, little less easy to have a good attitude when you're playing poorly. But this is just like your putting, just like your driving, just like your iron play, just like your chipping. This is a skill that needs to be practiced, honed, and considered after every single round. So once you've finished your round, not how well did I putt, how well did I drive, how well did I chip, add in how well did I stay in the present, how well did I manage my expectations, how well did I go through my routine. This is something that needs to be accepted as a skill that needs to be improved upon as well. So well done, Sammy. That's awesome stuff. And hopefully a little nugget for those of you out there who are listening. Please send in your questions if you have any. We can talk about this till the cows come home. But that mental side of the game is just so important, and it's such an interesting part of this beautiful game that we play. And there's a lot of mental stuff that is going on at the moment around the world of golf, and there's a lot of things that outside of your game can affect your mental attitude as well. And we might as well segue that nicely into what's going on with LIV at the moment. And there's a lot of player talk and a lot of movement and a lot of chat around players trying to figure out what their next moves are from that LIV point of view, Sammy.
Yeah, there is. LIV Golf New Orleans getting cancelled. Big story. They've confirmed, obviously, as we know, over the last week that the LIV Golf or the PIF have said that they've confirmed that they will not fund LIV Golf beyond this year, but they have put two new additions onto the board. They have said that their jobs are to now help find new investment opportunities to keep LIV going in whatever form it may take. That has sent, obviously, a whole range of reports. Trey Wingo, who long-time ESPN radio host, has put his flag in the ground, adamant that Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm have been trying through multiple angles to initiate conversations to get them back onto the PGA Tour. Bryson denies those reports. Rahm, I haven't seen whether he has commented on them, and I don't think he will. But what Bryson has said is as long as there is a LIV, he will be doing everything he can to try and make that work. The reports of the revenue, what they've lost, $8 billion, the figures reported that they're only bringing in about $100 million a year at the moment in money coming in. So there's a whole lot around that. But the tournament itself being cancelled, Lynchy, how big to you and how significant a moment was that to you in what may be to come in the future of LIV Golf?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is probably the first of what could potentially be a few. Yasser Al-Rumayyan is out, obviously, as you mentioned, new board coming in and new CEO, or not new CEO, but new board members coming in. This was his baby. This was his endeavor, right? So him jumping the ship probably obviously says that it's the end of PIF, and they've come out and said that they're not going to be backing it. But that was the biggest thing to me in terms of whether or not this LIV would go on or whether it would be able to find any backers or not. It's really difficult right now to see a path through for LIV that hopefully that doesn't attach itself in some way, shape or form to the Asian Tour or DP World Tour. These players are going to have somewhere to play. And based on some of the comments that are coming out of the PGA Tour, who now hold all the cards, really. Like, let's not forget there have been a number of players like Taylor Gooch and Bryson DeChambeau who have in a sense sued the tour and tried to again sort of take more than what they even got paid while they were over there. And there's a lot of bad blood there that a lot of the PGA Tour members are going to be like, yeah, you know what, you did this, you did that. It may not be as smooth sailing on the way back as it was for Brooks or even Patrick Reed now, given that the PIF has forced these players' hands. It wasn't their choice. The PGA Tour now hold all the cards. It'll be also interesting to see whether or not the PGA Tour continues in the fashion that it's been talking about in terms of the public the investment and becoming a for-profit organization, yada yada yada. This tour was a members-run organization, so the members still have a huge say in what happens in terms of rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are decided in part not just by the CEO, not just by the board, but also by the players who sit on the TPCs, tournament players committees, these sorts of things. And I don't know that it's going to be as easy as that to come across. And I mean, unfortunately for Jon Rahm, this puts him in a really awkward position with the stance that he took in terms of not wanting to play the minimum on the DP World Tour. He may end up having to pay those fines and play an entire season over there if he can't get back onto the US Tour. Now, what do you think, mate? Obviously the US Tour would be a better product with those players playing, but there's a lot of water that has to go under the bridge.
There is, and LIV Virginia is supposed to start on May 8th as well. At this stage, there's no confirmations of that being cancelled. So we'll just sort of wait and see. But I'm really looking forward, if that does go ahead, there's going to be some big questions asked at those press conferences of those players. And I'll be interested to see, are they towing company lines or are they looking for life? I think we'll be able to gauge a lot by what is said and oftentimes what isn't said in those press conferences. I still think there's a whole lot to play out. There's people quoting unnamed sports franchise investors and people like that saying there's just no way they could get money. They might not be able to get money to do it as it's currently done, but that doesn't mean that somebody can't come in and see the value and see the opportunity and say,
what is the value
I think
I
can make. Beg your pardon?
What is the value in your eyes?
I don't know what the monetary value is, because I just don't have the expertise in that area. But I do push against, and I'm going to play some audio from another golf podcast I thought was really interesting in just a moment. But I do push back a little against the fact that it wasn't popular and that it didn't have cut through and that the concept doesn't work, because you just have to look at the Australian tournament. You just have to look at the South African tournament. It might not have worked in America, but I think it definitely works in other places around the world, which again brings us back to a point. The opportunity for the DP is right there. My fear for them is that at the end of the day, this is all going to get said and done. The PGA are going to start making decisions about we're just going to look after America, and maybe we don't give money to them anymore, and maybe we don't give 10 places, or we might give 10 places for you to come over to our tour if you want them. But it just leaves a DP at the end of it going, where'd everybody go? Where are we? Hang on, we're still where we were.
So the value in your eyes was to the tournaments that were bought around the world, right? The value, unfortunately, is in the players that they had that went around the world to these worldly locations. The value is the players. So if you don't have those players, so if you don't have those players, unfortunately, the value isn't there for anyone to kind of pick up on. Like if you need to have some of those big name players to have the value in the actual events. So it's a really difficult one to see anything going forward if all of these players are going to shoot off and go elsewhere. I'm not sure that the value was necessarily in the team competition, albeit I enjoyed the team competition. I think that the team competition could potentially be good. There's definitely room for team competition in golf, I think. But without the players, there's no real value in the league itself, I don't think.
I agree in part. So one of the things that I think they really messed up at the start, Liv, because I really like the idea of an individual winner and a team winner. I think that was gold. The problem was the names were rubbish. Apart from some of the teams, there didn't seem to be a reason as to why they were a team. So if you had your time again, take the concept and say, right, how do I make this work? How do I create a parochial supporter base behind this? And again, we talk about a world tour versus the American tour. What does an international themed LIV Golf setup look like? Whether it's 54 or 72, what if Ripper GC is Aussie GC or Australia GC? They did it with the team made up of the Asian players. They did it with the English players. They were the Majestics, or now they're something else.
Okay,
they have started to figure this out, but they've just made the change too late. Look, what is the Crushers? I don't know what that is, But gee, Team USA East and Team USA West for like something like that, and then it is a South African team which they had, but what the hell is a clique? I don't. So there were parts of a really good idea there, and we saw. So take the DP. What was the biggest events? The Irish Open when Rory went back and played, the Scottish Open. Look at the Australian Open. Tap into that around the world, and then put teams up that represent their part of the world or their area, and just name them as they are. I think that's the opportunity. DP, I would be getting on the phone if I were you and looking to see where you could take this, because there's clearly an appetite for what LIV had around the world, not in America, but around the world. Yes, you probably need to keep some of those American players, and if the contracts are strong enough, they will. It's just how you repackage it up again to give it meaning and to get people passionate about it.
The contracts don't work at the prices that the players want the contracts at. There's no,
but they've already been paid.
Yeah, well,
so they've already made their bag.
What are they going to? Yeah, exactly. So what are they sticking around for? Is the difficulty now? The other thing
tap into the passion.
Yeah, but the other difficulty that we've got to acknowledge is that the beauty of professional golf is the meritocratic system, right? So if I'm a young player coming up and I play well enough, I can get myself to these biggest events, the majors. I can get myself on the biggest tours. The difficulty in the way that LIV packaged itself in terms of saying, yep, we'll take you, we'll take you, we'll take you, we won't take you, we won't take you, you don't want to come, we'll take you, and we'll take you, and we'll jam you all together, and we'll pay you this, and we'll pay you that, and we'll pay you this. Well, you're sort of stuck with a system that, you're hoping that people will kind of glean onto and hoping that people will barrack for. So all of a sudden a Matt Wolff 3 years later has no incentive to continue to play well, and he just sits there and dwindles away. So without the meritocracy, without people being able to improve their ranking, get themselves into that sort of top 50. So it would have worked if it had have come out the way that it was originally designed, to where you had, okay, top 50 in the world play in this teams event. And yes, there is a little bit of shuffling in terms of the way that the teams work, and there's a proper trade system and a proper fallout position. Like Bubba Watson's been in the cut line every single year, and he never falls out because he's getting paid. So in terms of if I'm a Range Goats fan, I better be a huge bloody Bubba Watson fan and be excited about the fact that we can't possibly win.
I don't know what a Range Goat is. Even though I'm dressed like him.
It's hard to tie yourself to a team without being tied 100% to an individual. And if you're tied to a team, you want to win, right? Why am I going to tie myself to Bubba Watson and the Range Goats when we've got no chance of winning because Bubba can't throw up a score, and we've got no chance of improving because he can't get relegated either? So you're right, there are a whole heap of moving parts, and we have to acknowledge that it was probably rushed into a little bit. And we have to acknowledge that there were parts of the game that are just integral to people enjoying watching professional golf that were just not met. Now, there are other aspects that worked really well, and I think that what we were just discussing there was that, great for all the international countries that are starved of high grade, top level professional talent. Now, without the money, they don't come still. So that's unfortunately the situation that we're in. So we definitely need these events to mean something. We definitely need the prize purses to be big enough to draw the biggest players down and play in places that aren't in America. But without that TV deal, without that worldwide tune-in time where there's a whole heap of time zones changing and all this sort of stuff, the product better be really, really interesting for me to tune in. And I don't think they probably hit that. So it'll be a very fascinating, we've got to keep an eye on this, but very fascinating next few months as to whether or not which events will go ahead, which players will continue to play, how the PGA Tour is going to structure their players that they want to come back and players that they're happy for them to sort of try and figure out their own way in this world of golf. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be continuing in any sort of fashion the way that it's currently structured.
Just with your rankings, that's why, again, you look to the DP because they have them. That's the only other point I'll make on that. And it's a strange place in the world we are in golf right now where I don't think any of these tours are actually getting it totally right. So isn't that amazing that the PGA are pushing towards something they think is better for the players as a result of what LIV have done? The DP are in a really interesting place. LIV clearly have this idea that they didn't quite nail, and now what happens to it? So nobody's really quite grasping it yet. But you can, because there's opportunity from all of this. So who's going to grasp it and who's going to be? And that's why I really like what Brian Rowlap is sort of standing for in amongst all of this. So I just want to play you one more thing that I found was really interesting. And it just speaks to the divide in the viewpoint of what LIV was from an American point of view to maybe us from an Australian, and especially me as someone who, you're a professional in the game who's played all around the world. And have a deeper understanding of the history, tradition, and all of that. Myself as a golf fan, I found this really interesting. So this is from the Vanity Index podcast, and the guy speaking is Chad Mumm, who was the brains and one of the producers behind Full Swing. So this is a guy that knows a whole lot about the world of golf. But I found there was a few different things they spoke about
as well.
Yeah, about golf and entertainment, because that's a really big part of this. But I just wanted to play you what he had to say in this space and then get your thoughts on it.
Because pro golf is unique amongst kind of all sports. And the history and tradition of it is something that you can't take away. The next thing he says, which again, this was part of our pitch for Full Swing season 1, way back in the day to Netflix, about what made golf unique from a narrative perspective for telling stories, which is this idea of isolation under stress. And I've never really seen it written this way, but I think it's so great. Unlike team sports, there's nowhere to hide. There's no substitutes, can't run out the clock, no defense to blame. It's just you, a ball, and doubt.
No timeouts.
It's literally the thing that makes golf great. We've all experienced, we've talked about the hardest golf shot in the world for anybody to hit is like standing in the fairway on 18 on the verge of shooting their best score ever.
Yeah.
You feel like you can barely take the club back. And this is just like a casual round. Now you add in crowds, you add in legacy, you add in history. Most of these players who are playing pro golf have been working to get there their entire life.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a number. Here's my favorite part.
Okay.
This is the one that I would like take out and frame for anybody who wants to talk about golf in terms of, one, what makes it successful in terms of a professional sport to watch, which is the leaderboard as story. Doesn't need a script. The leaderboard is the script. Names rise, fall, collide. You can glance at it and instantly understand the drama. If you fragment the field, you fragment the story. I love this so much.
Yeah.
And that is what golf needs. It doesn't need concerts. It doesn't need shorts and loud music on the golf course. It's like golf doesn't need to be made cool. It needs to be competitive. It needs to be the narrative comes from competitive drama.
There's a bit in that, but essentially saying that LIV didn't need anything of what it provided, but because golf already had everything that it needed because it had the leaderboard and that's all that it ever needs. This is a guy that works in the golf entertainment space. Do you agree with all of that?
Well, I think that part of what I was saying before is exactly that. Like, you can't follow teams if it's not competitive, if they're irrelevant. You can't push a team onto a country or a person and tell them to support these people because they look like you or dress like you or speak like you if they're not competitive. I think that a lot of what he said there is probably fair enough. That being said, look, as we've spoken about, there are a heap of positives from an Australian point of view that LIV has given us the opportunity to watch some of the great players and showcase some of our great golf courses as well. But without the players, without the competitiveness and without something to support or to turn the TV on, then it's not worth turning the TV on, is it?
I think that he's a lot of the way right, but if he was all the way right, then LIV would never have got off the ground. Greg Norman would never have felt there was a need for it. The players that went would never have felt like it was something that could work and that had appealed to them. And I know people say it's all the money. I don't think so. So, and it would never have, why did we get, yeah, of course it is. I'm not stupid. Yeah. Why did we get such great crowds in Australia, South Africa, places like that? So clearly there was something about it that was liked and something about it that people felt was necessary. It's a matter of finding what those things are. And then you can have the conversation moving forward. But it was just interesting because I thought that's the American perspective on it. And then we have a different experience with it.
I think that's probably one of the kindest American experiences as well, to be perfectly fair. Yeah. Like there's, understandably, if you've got the greatest tour in your backyard that plays in your country every single week, of course you don't want players like Jon Rahm or Bryson DeChambeau or Cam Smith or Brooks Koepka leaving the courses that are in your backyard. Why would you want that? So from an American standpoint, I can understand why they're so much more against it, because it hurt their tour that lives in their backyard. But yeah, without that money, it's hard to imagine. I mean, John Rahm could have come down and played the Aussie Open for 10 years prior to joining LIV if he really wanted to, if he said that that was important to him. He didn't. So we would have to pay him a bucket load of money to come down and play the Australian Open. So that's kind of where I stand on it. It'll be fascinating to see whether or not it continues on and in what form or fashion it does. I hope that a world tour is doable. I really, really hope that is something that is important for golf and the governing bodies to focus heavily on. Selfishly, from my point of view, I kind of hope that the DP World Tour gets a win out of LIV not continuing on, because I would love to have Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm and all these guys come down and play the Australian Open and the Aussie PGA this year.
Lynchy, the top 100 golf course is always a hotly debated topic, whether it's the official one on the website that does the whole world, or Australian Golf Digest to release theirs every year. The top 100 golf courses out now on Australian Golf Digest. Steve Kuipert from Aussie Golf Digest was nice enough to send us a copy to have a chat about. Not going to go through all 100. Chelt didn't make it, but I've got high hopes for the years to come. But I want to give you the top 15, and then I want you to just tell us what you believe makes a great golf course. You've often spoken about the fact that, especially from a broadcast and a tournament point of view, the golf course is as big a star as the players. So here's the top 15. Royal Melbourne West, Kingston Heath, Cape Wickham, New South Wales at 4, Peninsula Kingswood North at 5, Barnbugle Dunes at 6, Victoria at 7, Barnbugle Lost Farm at 8, Royal Melbourne East at 9, Royal Adelaide at 10, 7 Mile Beach at 11, new addition to the top 100, Matty Goggins' own. The National Mooner of the 3 national courses is the best ranked at 12, Metro at 13, Cathedral at 14, Peninsula Kingswood South, and then the National Gunnamatta at 16. That's the top 16, but you get the drift, and it's worth having a look at them all around. But what stands out to you about that top 15?
Well, I think first of all, it's such a personal opinion in terms of what gets ranked, and I think the best part about rankings is that it actually just starts a conversation, right? So it starts a conversation between us and what courses have you played? What courses have you played? Why do you think this is better? How would you have ranked it? But it's so important to keep talking about the thing that makes this game great, which is the courses that we play, the differing nature of individual course versus a different course, or what style of golf you prefer over a different style of golf. Now, as you're looking through, or as we look through that top 15 lists that you've just sort of mentioned, there are some varying styles of golf in there, but a lot of them are around the ocean and a lot of them are around the dunescapes and things like that. And I'm fortunate enough, I'm heading over to Scotland and Ireland just next week, and just cannot wait to get on some of these Scottish links and play some of the most spectacular golf courses in the world. So to me, a great golf course is a golf course that is fascinating for the best player in the world and fascinating for somebody who is just starting out their golfing journey. So someone who's capable of kind of getting around 18 holes. The skill sets are very, very different, but the challenges should still be reasonably similar. So if you want to have a really good score as a high-level golfer, you have to take on some of the hazards that are sitting there to stop you from having that good score. You actually have to take quite a bit of risk. You have to start playing at pins. You have to start aiming closer to bunkers or hazards or out of bounds fences or tee tree to give yourself better angles into certain pin positions, yada, yada, yada. I mean, it's endlessly fascinating. It comes down to what kind of turf is the golf course played on? What kind of landforms is the golf played on? Is there nice land movement? Condition can sometimes come into it as well. The playability, though, for all golfers, I think, is just so important. So I think that you and I could go around playing. We'll just pick the number one on the list there, Royal Melbourne West, which is Obviously an incredible golf course and part of a major part of the Australian Open last year that played on the composite course. A lot of the golf holes were the West course, but you and I can go out there and have an incredibly good day. Now the ball will bounce. It'll be firm. That is interesting to me because the ground game becomes so important as well. When it gets windy, the bunkers that are set 20, 30 meters short of a green start to come into play. If it's downwind for me, I need to try to land that ball short of the green and bounce it up. So that bunker all of a sudden is in play. Firm, fast turf, different options. I'm just trying to think of a really good option in terms of a hole. So the third hole at Royal Melbourne West, which is a short par 4, where there is a big advantage to taking driver for me because I can get up next to the green, and if I can hit a good enough tee shot and hit driver up there and get into that front right bunker, for most of the pins on the green, that front right bunker is a great position for me to be in. Now, if I don't pull that shot off, I could be right in the water. I could be left in the tee tree, lost ball, and a 3 turns into a 6 really, really quickly. I can also take less risk and hit 3 iron off the tee. If I find the fairway, now I've got quite a difficult pitch shot that I'm hitting into a green that's sloped from front to back. And if I don't nail the strike on that pitch and I don't quite catch it the way I want to, I'm definitely going to be through the back of the green. Okay.
Yep.
And so for me, that takes out the birdie option, right? But for you, who hits a nice 3-wood or a nice drive or a nice iron up there, the back of the green is just a fine option. You've played 2 really nice shots and now you get a chance at a par, which is a 3-pointer for you. So the interest and the intrigue is there for both of us on a hole like that. And if we're both short of that green, which is a really difficult chip shot, another aspect to what makes a great golf hole is the plethora of options that you've got to play each shot. So if you're short of that green, the third, for anyone who's been lucky enough to play there, you could hit putter, you could hit hybrid, you could hit 4-iron, you could hit 6-iron, you could hit 8-iron, you could hit pitching wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, all of those clubs from next to the green, and all of those clubs could be the correct choice depending on how well you execute. And so that to me is what makes a great golf course. Plenty of options and a golf course that when there are some conditions, you play it slightly differently every single day if the pins are different and the wind is different. It's not just rinse and repeat, same club off the same tee, exactly the same thing every single day. That is to me what is very, very interesting and what makes a great golf course. And all of those top 15 courses present many options to every single player, no matter what your level is.
Want to hear from you, courselanguagepodcast@gmail.com. What makes a great golf course? And tell us your level of golf and tell us why and what it is and why that you look for each time you tee up on the first and head off to play a particular course. What makes a great golf course to your mind? It could be the visual aspect of it, the stunning backdrop. Oh, it was great to see Tasmania, the public course, in the top 100. I played that, and that 12th hole, that par 5 where you actually hit over the ocean, you got to take on the elbow as it goes around to the left. It's just visually stunning a hole as you'll get to play in Australia, right along the coast in Hobart there. So it was great. It could be that for you. It could be, the dune style thing. It could be sandbelt. It could be so many different things. You could love the big tree lined and, so whatever it might be, we want to hear from you. And at Course Language Pod is our Instagram handle as well. We'd love to hear from you there. Should we get around the grounds, Lynchy?
Let's do it.
Cam Young gets it done at Doral.
Cam Young on a heater. He's one of the great stories of full swing if you follow that. He grew up in golf, but 93 tournaments, I think it was, Lynchy, without a PGA win. It was always the 7 runner-ups and all of that. The story of last year, well, the story of this year is he's won his third in 13, having just won the Cadillac, a $20 million signature event, and did it with a leg in the air.
Absolutely. He really did. And I think that it's very fascinating as well what's going on at the moment. You've got 2 very dominant players on the PGA Tour in Matt Fitzpatrick and Cam Young, who dueled it out at the Players' Championship as well. So very, very interesting to see how they go. I mean, this golf course, which we haven't seen for so long on the PGA Tour, clearly a very different test to what it was 10 years ago, last time that they were out there. And Cam just has that power. He's got that firepower. His putting has just improved exponentially, which is that next jump that he needed to take. The flat stick was always just a little bit questionable, especially at the big moments, the big times. And he seems to have found a process that works for him, a practice process, and he can do no wrong at the moment. He is in incredible form, Cam Young.
Yeah, he's the only disappointing thing for me about Cam Young, because I just reckon you'd love the man if you ever met him. He'd be, I reckon, for any of his friends, he's probably the first one they call. He's just a calm and measured person. You feel comfortable around him. He'd be someone who'd always got your back. But there's a little bit of the Scotty Schefflers about him where, and it's not a criticism, but I look at this from the broadcaster point of view and the fan point of view. He's a very laid back and quite unassuming type of guy. And it's like, we already have that. We already have Scotty. But if you are going to take your game to the next level and be, a superstar of the sport, I'd love it if he was just a little bit more verbose, but you can't ask someone to be someone that they're not. I'm being a little bit facetious, of course. It's sort of like, how good is this? We've got this someone emerging at the moment that might be
great.
He was great at the Ryder Cup. He's now, won 13 out of the 3 out of the last 13, as I mentioned. He's contending in majors and all that kind of stuff. It'd just be great if there was he had that different element of personality, because the guys who have that of the Americans tend to be on the LIV Tour at the moment.
Look, there can only be, there's only ever one Tiger Woods. But tying a bow on what we were sort of speaking about earlier on in the round, not getting too high and not getting too low in this game is a huge attribute to playing good golf consistently. So you've got to be able to ride momentum. I'm a huge advocate for that. Like, momentum is everything. That's why some of these par putts, you'll get more reaction out of some of these guys like Cam Young or Scotty Scheffler. You'll get a fist pump for a 10-foot par putt made more so than you'll get a fist pump from a 12-foot or 15-foot birdie putt made. Momentum is really important, but it's not surprising that Matt Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler, Cam Young, these guys that seem on the outside very, very monotone, very, very calm, regardless of situation, it's not surprising to see them playing well.
They're the most consistent. Yeah,
exactly right. I want a quick shout out to Adam Scott, who, as we spoke about last week, is going to be playing his 99th major in a couple of weeks, who finished tied for 4th. And another quick shout out as well to Alex Fitzpatrick. Alex Fitzpatrick finished T9 this week after getting into all of these signature events through the win that he had with his brother last week at the teams event. And I couldn't be happier for Alex right now, because there was a lot of commentary around him and whether or not the teams event deserved all of that came with what winning gives them. And this bloke went out there and won it. He went out there and did it. He's won on the DP World Tour. He was looking to get a US Tour card anyway. And for him to finish T9 this week and beat so many of the big name players that we all recognize, Justin Thomas, Tommy Fleetwoods, Minwoo Lee, he beat the Højgaards, Max Homa, all the names and list goes on. Goddard. I mean, you could run down the list. He's beaten most of the field. So I was stoked to see Alex Fitzpatrick play well, and I hope he continues that good form, because that is what I think, tying again back to LIV, what we miss in a league that cherry picks the players that they want to play for. It doesn't give players like Alex Fitzpatrick a way to elevate themselves and get into that stratosphere and then prove to the world that they are deserving of that situation. Just like Sudarshan Yalamaraju as well, who came out and played the Aussie events late last year. This is what is so awesome about this game, so spectacular about golf, is that if you're good enough, you'll make it. And I think that was just great to see Alex Fitzpatrick play so well.
Well, you pointed out last week that anyone who thinks that Matt Fitzpatrick carried Alex to win the team event at the Zurich wasn't watching it. Didn't see some of the great shots that Alex played. They just assumed something, went with it, and that's just poor reporting, lack of understanding of what actually played, and just baseless. He clearly didn't watch what unfolded, and good on him. I couldn't agree with you more. I want to ask you about two different things because I think there's a little bit in this for everybody. The two most talked about incidents from this tournament are going to be Cam Young. What a guy. We've just spoken about the fact that you could set your watch to him as a human being, but golf karma's a funny thing. I've always been really a believer in this, that if you take something from golf, it will demand it back and it will get it 10 with interest. Yeah. Nobody saw, including the broadcasters, his ball moved, but he did, and he'd addressed it. So we know that is a penalty. I want you to explain this because he had explain what's the difference between a ball moving before address, after address, and all that, but just why this was such a significant thing with the tournament on the line and spoke about someone's character so much that no one would have known if he hadn't have pulled himself up, but he did, and he took his penalty.
Yeah, so essentially, if you make the ball move, that's on you. So he grounded his club. That obviously moved blades of grass or whatever. The ball oscillated and moved. It rolled forward, he said. So from that point, you then have to replace your ball. You take the penalty and you play from there. If you don't replace the ball, I believe, and I need to look this up, but it's a 2-shot penalty if you don't replace the ball because now you've played the ball from the wrong position. 1-shot penalty if you move it back to its original position and play from there. But it is what's beautiful about this game is that I now agree with you in terms of golf karma. There was a lot of rules issues actually over this weekend. We don't need to get too deep into them necessarily, but a situation or a game that requires you to be honest and open and call penalties on yourself, that's what golf is. And well done to Cam Young. He had a few shots up his sleeve, but it was nice that he called it on himself.
I just thought that was really worth pointing out, and it is worth checking that rule for as well on the putting green as well because it does slightly differ there.
It's changed on the putting green, yeah.
Yeah, that if you haven't addressed it yet and it does move, if you put it back, then you're okay. But you've just got to check that with your playing partners as well to make sure they're all happy with that. The other one was Adam Scott
already.
Yeah, that's right. So the other one was Adam Scott, who played the wrong ball. He said this is the first time it would have happened in his life.
Wow.
He takes a 2-shot penalty. There were people looking for his ball buried in deep rough. He just didn't check it, assumed it was his. And hit his shot. I've done this before, played the wrong ball. Yeah. We've all done this.
We've all done this.
But what we were speaking about earlier, just to tie it in, when something goes really, really wrong on the golf course and then how you respond, go and watch Adam Scott talk about his response to it. This is the greatest example of what we were talking about before, but just at the highest level. So he ends up after that having a 71 on the Friday, makes the cut, but then has a 66 and a 64 to storm home, 8 under final round and finishes inside the top 5. So it goes from disaster to chocolates, boiled lollies to chocolates because he didn't let it ruin his day.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing as well, that what we were talking about earlier on is that you can say disaster, but it's just a 2-shot penalty. It's just a double bogey or it's just a triple bogey. It can feel like a disaster, but he can make those back. And if you have the right attitude, that's the attitude you take into it. If you don't have the right attitude, it'll derail your event or it'll derail your day, and that'll be it. There's always little things to learn, right? Little moments that you can learn from, and you make the mistake enough times where you make a double and it ruins your day. At some point, you got to start taking ownership for how you're reacting to said double or said bad thing. Because I think Rory McIlroy was exquisite in the way that he described it with Bob Rotella, his mental coach, about golf isn't a game of perfect and people win all the time by missing short putts. Or Nelly Korda said, don't worry, you can miss short putts and still win event. Bad things happen all the time, especially across 4 days of golf. There's never going to be a smooth sailing 4 rounds of golf. There's never going to be a smooth sailing 1 round of golf, very rarely. So how you respond to these little niggles or little issues is important, and it's worth acknowledging that you need to work on it.
Just 2 more for me to touch on around the grounds. Nelly Korda flexes. We always wondered who was it going to be that was going to separate themselves. We thought it was going to be Nelly last year. It's definitely Nelly this year. She follows up her win at the Chevron, the first major of the year, winning the very next tournament after, and again, put them in the rear view and just kept them there. Everyone was fighting.
She's been beaten by 2 women this year in the whole year. She's
Yeah, is
finished
it 6
second
top twos in
twice.
a row? I think it's something
Incredible.
crazy like that for Nelly Korda.
Incredible.
So
Yeah.
it's just, we all thought it was going to be last year where she really did put some distance between her and the rest. It feels like it's happening this year. It's amazing to see when somebody reaches another level and levels up. And Nelly Korda has absolutely leveled up in that. Gabby Ruffles was the best performed of the Aussies in the tournament as well. But Nelly Korda well on top in the world rankings now, and Hannah Green, our highest ranked female. But yeah, geez, that's just extraordinary what she was able to do that in the manner that she did.
Absolutely. Continues from strength to strength. As I said, she's lost to 2 players this year, so ridiculous year she's having so far.
Congrats to Sarah Hammett, a young player out of Queensland who's at USC College, 36-hole qualifying tournament that she will be teeing it up with some of our best Australians and Nelly Korda at the US Open this year as an amateur. That is a massive accomplishment. If you've got any idea of how big college golf is, how many players are going through those qualifiers to do what she did, to get a tee time at the US Open this year. Wow. I commentated her New South Wales Open win a couple of years ago. She's such a lovely young person, clearly an incredible young golfer. Really excited for her.
Mikkel Lingberg wins the Turkish Airlines Open, the event that Alex Fitzpatrick would have been playing had he have not won the previous week. And some interesting controversy.
I hope he told someone, Lynchy. I hope they didn't get to the tee announcer going, and next to the tee, Alex
Exactly right.
Fitzpatrick.
Exactly right. And some
Bueller.
interesting rules
Sorry.
controversy on the Asian Tour as well. A penalty that was essentially happened a couple of days prior left a player out of a playoff, but Minyak Song ends up winning on the Asian Tour at the Caltex Meekyang Open.
Did you have a view on that? A player who hit a ball that they then hit a provisional, ended up finding his ball, and then the adjudication that occurred during the round was then overruled later on.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. If the rules officials have made a ruling to where you've signed your card, that score should absolutely count. You can't go back and change it a couple of days on. Ridiculous.
Agreed.
I feel terrible for the young man, but that's the way the cookies crumbled for him, unfortunately.
Got a scramble question for us?
So my scramble question this week, Sammy, is a little different. Not necessarily a would you rather, more of a pick your own adventure. We've been talking about Golf Digest's Top 100, what makes a great golf course. I've given you my opinion. Now, we've both played Cheltenham. It's your home golf course. We speak about it quite a bit on this podcast. But my question to you is, what is your favourite hole at Cheltenham and why?
Oh, gee, that's tough. So automatically in my mind, I go, one, because I just love the way it looks when I stand there because I'm so excited to play the round. Middle bunker, a bunker in the middle of the fairway, always a challenge. 3, because it's if you can get your drive right, it really opens up, but it's tough. 5, because it's so hard and I just love the challenge. And then 8, because I think visually it's just a beautiful hole. So if I've got to pick one, I'll go with, I think 8. You got to hit up over that hill. If you get the speed slope, you're set up perfectly, but the green is so hard to hit. It's elevated, it rolls off, there's bunkers left and right, a tree that overhangs, it's dead out the back. I love that hole. The sun sets over it, and I could play it over and over and over again. So I think I'll pick 8, par 4 8th.
So, and this is what makes a great golf course, right? Just tying it all back. So I think 8 is a great option. The green is what makes it really tricky. You've got to be very good with your spin control. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you're not in the right areas on that green. I would agree with you that would be right up there. I was tossing up between number 3 and 4 for me, but I'll choose number 4 just given that it's a par 3. And again, I think the bunkering on that hole is really good. It sits at an elevated as an elevated green, so as that you have to be quite precise with the strike. You can't really get away with a poor shot around that hole. And to me, a great golf hole tells you at whatever level you are, this is your option and this is what you have to execute and this is how you have to go about it. So if we were talking about what would make that hole a better hole, removing that front left bunker so as that all of the players at Cheltenham who can't carry at 120 metres would have the option to bunt their driver up the left-hand side, chase it up there and find their way onto the green. So the land, that bunker only hurts poor players, doesn't hurt good players. So that would be a part of the hole that I would get rid of. But the essence of what this scramble question is think about your favorite hole and why you love it. And you mentioned it before. It might be the view that you have standing on a certain tee box. It might be a green that you just love hitting into. There might be an iron shot that you stand over and you're just puckering because you know that you can't miss it here or there. It might be a tee shot that just gets the juices flowing for you, but just whatever that is for you, whatever the essence is that makes that hole great for you, that is what you're looking for in great golf courses. And tying it back to what we were talking about earlier on, if you don't have your head in the right space, if you're not mentally in where you need to be, you can't appreciate these things that make the tracks and the courses that we're playing so special. So get your head right. Make sure that your attitude's good so as that you can enjoy some of the world's best golf courses, which we do have here in Australia, and get out and play as many as you can.
That is great advice, Lynchy, and it's a great place to finish what's been a jam-packed episode of Course Language for this week. And we want to leave the Course Language members with just a couple little offers that they can take advantage of. We're really big on wanting to hear from you about your Course Language confessional. We think this is the greatest part of every round. When you step off, you get a beer in hand, you sit down, you'll go, you'll never guess what I did. Those are the funniest stories. That's what makes this game so much fun to play. It's those moments that we want to hear about. And just to entice you to get involved even more, once a month, we're going to, every person that sends in a Course Language confessional to us will go into the draw to win a Callaway or a Travis Matthew cap. It's valued at over $50. They are the best apparel in golf, and every entry that comes in will go into the draw once a month to win one of those caps. So get your nominations in, get your entries in. You can record it on our Instagram at Course Language Pod. You can email us courselanguagepodcast@gmail.com. So get your nominations in for your Course Language confessionals, and you will be rewarded. Don't forget to use Course Language 20 at Travis Matthew or the OGO websites if you're wanting to get some gear there. We can get you 20% off. Check out our YouTube as well, Lynchy, and just always remember that what happens on course plays on Course Language.
Hit 'em well.